Hello, everyone. My name is Gil Fried. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Matthew Kastel.
And we are the Venue Visionaries. Our vision is to use these podcasts or videos to utilize knowledge and humor to communicate strategies and train the next generation of venue employees. So that's our goal. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned quite a bit from this experience and from this opportunity that we're going to share with you. Just a brief intro. I am a professor of sport management at the University of West Florida, and I've been teaching sport facility management for over 30 years. And I used to be an attorney and practice in this area. And I am an author of a textbook called Managing Sport Facilities, and it's in its 5th edition. And my co-author just so happens to be Matt Kastel. So Matt, why don't you give a brief overview of your background?
Okay, sure will, Gil. Thank you. First off, I'm the stadium manager for Oriole Park at Camden Yards for the Maryland Stadium Authority, and I'm going into, I think, the 17th year. I start losing count after a while. Prior to that, I've been a director for the Houston Astros. I've been a minor league general manager. Additionally, I sit on the board of visitors for Mount St. Mary's Bolt School of Business, where I teach a facilities and stadium management class. And happy to be here and ready to share some of our knowledge and hopefully knowledge.
Sounds great. Okay, so we'll go from there. This is the first episode, and the first episode we're looking at the New Orleans vehicle attack. And so Matt, I don't know if you want to share some of the facts that you know about this case, and then we'll discuss what strategies have been taken, will need to be taken in the future, and what can be done to make venues as safe as possible in light of this serious incident, which unfortunately killed a number of people.
At first blush, the first one we have doesn't seem like a sports or sports facility related incident. It just seems like a straight terrorist attack. But when you look at it closely, it really is closely linked with sports and sports facility. And of course, we're talking about the horrible attack that took place on New Year's Day in New Orleans, where a terrorist basically jumped the street, went through an area where there were supposed to be bollards, and killed a number of people. I think the number was 14 people killed, 35 injured. Making the matter even more scary was he had done some research, reconnaissance on Bourbon Street, the whole French Quarter, tried to record the area with meta glasses, and then he had rented a truck from Houston, Texas, where he was from. And for those of you who are not familiar with the area, I think it's a 4 to 6 hour drive from Houston to New Orleans. So it's a distance, but not a ridiculously long distance. And then on the day of the attack, he laid out explosive devices throughout the city that fortunately didn't detonate. And then he at one point went onto the street curb, like I said, and killed 14 people, injured 35. And one of the interesting things about it, security barriers, or I call them bollards, that you see in a lot of streets, which is pretty much a mainstay at stadiums and sports facilities. And these are just areas to keep something like this from happening, where if a car runs into them or a truck, it's gonna stop them. They had those on the street, but they were being taken out for maintenance at the time, ironically in preparation for the Super Bowl, to make it safe for the Super Bowl, because it sounds like the Super Bowl recognized the danger that faulty bollards could pose. The problem was with this is that while they were doing this, they didn't have the proper support to stop something like this happen. And of course, even on a normal January 4th, this area would have been crowded with pedestrians, but they had the Sugar Bowl the next day, which was a huge college football game. So it all relates back to sports and is all impacted by sports and sports facilities. Gil, what are your thoughts on this? How would, in retrospect, which is always 2020, how would this be handled, or what could have been done?
Okay, so let's first talk about bollards for a second, because they are a normal fixture that you see at a lot of different facilities. And for those who might be thinking, what the heck are these bollards things? Just think about it when you go to like a Target store and they have those big red round balls of cement in front of the store. That can help prevent a vehicle from trying to ram or hit people. You also see them with cement planters and a wide variety of different ones. And some of the ones that you see are actually sleeves with pieces of metal that are very solid, which can pop up out of the street and block a street and then can be brought down to make the street passable. And that's a great technique to have if it works. That's the key. Will it actually work? And New Orleans got notice years in advance that their bollards weren't working effectively. Sometimes they would work, sometimes they wouldn't. They didn't have control. And in fact, that was highlighted in an article that came out after the incident in the Wall Street Journal of a consultant who was hired who raised this issue to the city of New Orleans. So this is something that I like to take a look at is we always look at preparation for an event. And part of the way we prep for an event is to do an audit of what's going on. You want to look at what are the current strengths and weaknesses that you have of your current layout, facility, and your plan. And this could look at so many different areas. And the best way to look at it is a tabletop exercise where you can have your stadium, your arena, and the surrounding areas and highlight what will happen if something happens here, there, wherever it might be. And when you go through that process, you can think like someone who wants to have a nefarious plan. And that's a great thing, is that when you prepare and it's done correctly, you could be very nefarious in what you do. And you could think of all these strange things to do that, you know what, hopefully none of them will ever occur. But in the same vein, when you look at it from that perspective, you have to then be proactive and say, if this could happen, what are my defenses going to be? How will we respond to this? So if you know you're going to be changing out bollards, as an example, and fixing them, making sure that they work properly, what is your strategy for when they're not there? Because you have them there for a reason. And that is something where every venue manager, every event manager, anyone in this space has to think 1, 2, 3 steps ahead. Not just I have to put on the event and that's my myopic focus right now, is to think broadly and what are we going to do in the future, because there are going to be people who want to cause harm to us and we have to act accordingly. So let's stay 1 step ahead. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, you hit a lot of the good thoughts on that, Gil. I see it, some additional points on that, and that one of them is because I'm involved in stadium maintenance. And I think one of the key things is when you do maintenance, it changes things. We all have to do maintenance. But I think one of the failings possibly, or one of the things they should have looked at was that they were maintaining their bollards. Okay, it had to be done. That work had to be done. There's no question about it. But what you need to come up with a plan when things are being under maintenance, out for work, that the bollards were there for a reason, to keep it safe, to keep vehicles from going there. What was your plan B? I guess they had in some cases sawhorses up, which really isn't going to stop a car. So I think one of the things to think through when you're doing maintenance in a sports facility, stadium, that it changes the physical structure, and you have to sort of think through what safety hazards does that bring and what kind of alternatives can I put in place, if anything, while that's going on. That's one thing I sort of see. The other thing I sort of think about, I heard that part of the reason that they weren't done on time was that it had to go through the procurement process of getting the bollards. And if you're with any municipal agent, the procurement process takes quite a while because you have to post it in the public, you have to let them time to bid and so on and so forth. But what a lot of different municipalities will do is have a thing called emergency procurements, where they realize that safety is an issue and they may not have that time to do the normal procurement. So that's another thing they could have looked at is what is your procurement process for when you're doing maintenance, so you don't have this long lead time where you're unsafe. And then it always goes back to me, Um, this happened well outside where the football stadium was going to happen, or the games were going to happen, whether it's the Sugar Bowl or the Super Bowl. But it just shows, if you're a sports venue, that your perimeter really extends well beyond your property. That in this case, a part of the tourist town is where your fans, customers are congregating. And how do you keep your guests safe even when they're not quite at your facility yet? And I think the only answer to that is, and I'm sure that happened, is just careful cooperation with all the partners, police, fire, Homeland Security, so on and so forth. And like you said, doing the tabletops, that helps. All those things will certainly help.
Though those are some great ideas, and especially understanding procurement, but getting all the stakeholders together. And we do have international experience from these types of incidents. And I think we could look at Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England, where that occurred just outside the arena. But then we had just earlier this year during Christmas time, you had the German street markets, and you had vehicular assaults there as well. So one of the things that we have to take a look at is that not everyone has a weapon, not everyone has a gun, not everyone has a knife, nor do you actually need that, because you can use everyday items as a weapon. And in this case, you can use a vehicle. And what is the vehicle of choice? Normally larger vehicles, because they are bigger, stronger, heavier, and can cause more damage. And that's where you have to monitor the vehicles around the perimeter. And as you mentioned, Matt, concentric circles around the area. And it could be a 2-mile radius, could be 5-mile radius. It just depends upon the event and the expected potential harm that could exist. So it's always focused in on harm mitigation. So if I would take a look at what kind of training tips would I encourage someone who is studying sport management or in the sport management space, the first thing that I would think about is frontline people have to be vigilant. You have to think about all the concerns around you, all the different issues that might exist. We often hear, if you see something, say something. Well, I think we have to be a little bit more vigilant than that. You have to be aggressive in terms of trying to identify issues that might be a concern. If you see something that is sort of, let's say, a barricade, and it's out of position, it's out of shape, it's broken, whatever it is, you just don't walk by and say, oh, that's a shame. You do something about it. And that's what I want to make sure we convey. How about yourself? Any training tips?
Well, training tips. One of the things I would train yourself to look for is what's your technology. Using technology as your friend. Making sure you have the right cameras in place. Making sure there's certain technology you can use now to capture a license plate. So I think training is important. I think, one of the things that's going to sound silly and elementary, but for a good training tip is just being well read on current events that are going on around you in the world. Like you said, the Christmas market attack in Europe wasn't the first time that's happened in Europe, but if it happened there, why can't that happen here? And I think, something happens in the world, like the LA fires. You may not be thinking fires in your sports venue, but it's a time to sort of reassess and say, what are my fire tips, or what's our fire plan here, and sort of look for and develop best practices on how to handle something.
All right, Matt, we've hit our timeline here. So let's just raise one final question for the people that are listening or watching. How would you handle tailgate and perimeter in and around a major urban stadium, knowing what you know about the New Orleans attack? We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to think about it, and then you could push play again, and you'll hear what our take is on that answer. So, Matt, welcome back, and welcome back to people that are listening. So the answer to the question of how would you handle tailgating and the perimeter in and around a major urban stadium, knowing what you know about the New Orleans attack, my answer is plan, plan, plan. Without a plan, you're in serious trouble. Hope is not a plan, and nor is it a strategy. You need to get all the stakeholders together. You need to train everyone to execute the plan, and you have to be nimble to adjust to what might be going on around you. And if you do that, it's easier to respond to these kind of situations when something occurs. However, and I want to make sure this is absolutely 100% out there, it's impossible to prevent every single issue. There's going to be potential concerns that arise, and you could plan for 99.9% of the issues, and you might stop numerous attacks. The attackers only need to be successful once to make an impact. Any last thoughts, Matt?
No, I think you hit it on the head, Gil. Get your stakeholders together and then listen to them. A lot of times they're your source experts, or they're going to have information that you don't have. So they're very important. And not just listen to them, but also find a way to build great relationships with them, because you're going to need their help and they're going to need your help as well.
That's it for the first episode of Venue Visionaries. And we look forward to seeing you at our second one and covering a different topic. Take care, everyone. Bye.